Hey everyone, my name is Vase Odin. I run the Left for the Vultures YouTube channel, and with me today,
Geo from the Headless Hammerhead YouTube channel.
and you're here today probably because you're sick and tired of quirky games, baking cookie role-playing sessions, and you want something with more teeth. You want fantasy that's brutal, and you can have a lot of fun fighting and be a badass, and we're here to help you do that. So, Geo, we have a newsletter. You wrote an article, and the article is all about mistakes that people make that makes their NPCs completely forgettable. Why did you write that article?
So I watched the movie and I started thinking, man, I like a lot of the characters in the movie, and I bet a month from now I'm going to remember most of these characters. Yet with a lot of the TTRPG campaigns that we've played, a week after the campaign is over, I don't remember any of the NPCs. So I started thinking, how do the movies do this? How do they make characters so memorable, and how do we fail so badly at doing this with our TTRPGs?
Yeah. And why is it important? I mean, personally, I believe that because I know some of you are clickety clacketing about this right now that, oh, what's the big deal? But honestly, we're all telling stories together. That's why we get together and play these tabletop role playing games. And if those stories are forgettable to the point where a month later you completely forgot about this campaign that you played and all the characters in it, then, you
What was
didn't
the
create
point?
long lasting memories. Yeah. What's the point?
What was the point?
These games for me, and I think for you, and I think for a lot of you who are watching here, is to create lasting memories that you can later talk about with your friends 2-3 years later, going, man, do you remember when you swung that sword at that mind flare and just cut its tentacles off? Like, that's the kind of memorable stuff you want to have when you do these games. And I truly believe this is the purpose for it.
Yeah, exactly. We live off nostalgia. I mean, nostalgia makes a resurgence every few years, and we have, for people our age, we have all these things coming back, right, from our childhoods, and we love reliving this. We're now collecting all of these things, and we want to be able to do that. We spend so much time playing these role playing games. Sometimes, it's 4-hour sessions, sometimes more even, and sometimes it's several times a week for years. And for it to not mean anything, because at the end you can't even reminisce about it a few years later. It's kind of sad, right? So
Yeah.
I started doing some research to see, how can we fix this? How can we make these NPCs more memorable so that the entire world that these players live in is more memorable? I started making the link to the comic books because that's where I come from, the comic book world. And I started thinking about Batman and Superman and Spider-Man. And why isn't Superman more popular than, say, Batman or Spider-Man? And I started thinking, well, the world that was created around Batman and around Spider-Man is so much more rich because they have all these other players. Yeah, Superman has Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen and Lex Luthor, but that's about it. If you ask anybody on the street to name a character from the Superman comics, they may know Lois Lane, but that's about it. Even Jimmy
Yeah.
Olsen is kind of a reach for most people. But if you go to Batman, you've got Robin, you've got Commissioner Gordon, you have the huge rogues gallery of villains that he faces, right? Name a Superman villain other than Lex Luthor. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know,
Very difficult.
right? And Spider-Man, you have a ton of villains as well, but you also have Aunt May, and you have J. Jonah Jameson and Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy. So they've built this entire world around these characters, and that's what makes these characters so popular, because it's more immersive than some of the more flat stories, right?
Yeah.
And
And
this
this
is
is
what
not to
movies are
say,
really good at too.
sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So and now I lost my train. I lost my train of thought.
You said this is not to say.
And this is not to say that the player characters themselves aren't the main characters and shouldn't be the focus of attention in a campaign. What we're trying to say here is that the supporting cast also needs to be somewhat memorable, at least some of them, the more important characters, because you can't have just one hero running into a story and then remember that story later on if the only interesting part of the story is that hero. You're not going to remember any of it. Let's be honest.
Yeah. And if all the NPCs, let's say, okay, so your adventuring party walks into the tavern and they're trying to figure out where the bad guy's hideout is. All the NPCs generally, in most campaigns I played, the PCs start hearing rumors. Why is this so centered on the PCs and their goals, right?
Yeah.
Why are all these rumors being thrown at them for free, for no reason? Like, it is so just focused on the player's goals, whereas it would expand the world quite a bit if, say, you want to bring in an NPC and make him a recurring character. Maybe
Hmm.
he tells the PCs, I know where the hideout is, but why don't you give me something to get the info? And the players might offer him 3 gold pieces, right? And so, okay, great. He gives them the info. And then as he takes the money, he says, man, I'm still a gold piece short. just that one little hint, the players might pull on that thread and discover something else about this character. You know, they're trying to pay off a debt because there's a thug, or maybe the thieves guild is threatening him or something. You know, or the burgomaster is going to come after him. They threaten to jail him or execute him for whatever reason. And now the PCs, you can have a side quest here to help the player, or they may not care, but it's expanded the world and made it so much more rich because now this character has their own drives and motivations. It's not all about the PCs.
Yep.
The world
So
keeps going.
the world does keep going. Yeah. I mean, it feels more lived in, and the story makes a lot more sense. Like the original Star Wars series, you have Luke Skywalker. If it was just him with no supporting cast and no memorable characters, the movies would not be anywhere near as memorable. You'd forget about it. But he has all these other cool characters that he's interacting with that make it, not only does it make it more fun, but it develops him as a character too. It builds his character, and you can see him change over time because of all these people in his life. So really cool. I think that we've set the foundation here for running a game, making NPCs more memorable. So how can we do that?
Well, that is the first one, right? Give the main NPCs, not every NPC, but the main NPCs, a clear agenda that doesn't necessarily coincide with the players and may even conflict with the players, right? Agenda or drive. So the next one would probably be give the NPCs a personality, because without a clear personality, if they're just, you know, the faceless gray NPCs from pop culture today, where it's just two to
Yeah, the
two,
meme,
boom,
the little
bump,
gray face,
bump into the wall,
yeah,
bump into the wall, bump into, you know, or
super
just
forgettable. Yep.
like that's horrible. You're playing an old video game, not even a modern video game. You're playing, you know, whatever, Galaga, and it's just whatever. It's horrible, horrible. It's
Skip that.
yeah. I think we should leave this part of us laughing
Yeah, fuck
just for no
yeah.
reason. Just throw it
Yeah.
in us laughing for no reason.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But yeah, you give the NPCs a personality, you know, something that is based on somebody you know. I mean, everybody that we know has their own personality. They have something that makes them unique,
Mhm.
right? So you can have somebody who, like for example, I love My Big Fat Greek Wedding is a movie. It's kind of an old movie, romantic comedy or whatever. But there's such a memorable character, is the bride's father, where he has this quirk where he wants to make Greeks the center of the universe. They created everything according to this guy, right? So anything that's invented, glue, how was glue invented? Oh, well, the Greeks invented it. And then he comes into this whole story about how the Greeks invented glue. So the daughter, she ends up throwing a wrench and says, okay, how about, like, you know, wasabi? Where did the Japanese get wasabi? And he stops and he pauses for a moment and thinks, and then aha! And then he comes up with this mental gymnastics of how the Greek, and then he ends up coming up with the story, and it makes this character so memorable and so likable for the
Yeah.
viewers that
Yeah,
you
just
remember.
that
And
one
look, we're
quirk.
talking about it. So, yeah, we're talking
Again, the
about it so many years
personality
later.
doesn't mean that they have to have a different voice. People do voices on the internet. Yeah, voices. But you don't have to do voices when you play role-playing games. In fact, voices still can be very forgettable, and people are going to have a set limit of voices that they can actually do, unless they're Matt Mercer or something. But basically, a personality is not just a voice. It's like something like what you just did. And now I know we're anti-quirky, right? And some people call them quirks, character quirks. We just call them character personality traits, basically. They're not necessarily quirks because it's not super quirky. You're just giving a personality trait that's memorable to these characters. Even something minor, you know? One character may be somewhat blind and they have to squint to look closer at something. That is enough to make them memorable.
Exactly. And you know, I played a campaign where it was so ridiculous. Everybody had a different haircut. And this is an anime thing
Yeah.
where you have, you know, and the reason anime does it is because all the characters in traditional anime, they all look the same. So what makes them different mainly is the hairstyle. So the hairstyle and of course the clothes that they wear. So every character has their own basically uniform and their own hairstyle that they wear. But I'm playing this campaign and the GM describes, okay, this one has like the sides of their hair shaved off. This one has like spiky hair. This one has like a comb over. This one has long hair. Like, oh my gosh, that doesn't make the character memorable or unique necessarily,
Yeah.
right? It can be used in a great positive way, but just adding a quirk just for the sake of adding a quirk is not what makes these characters unique
Yeah.
and
Or
memorable.
giving them a third arm or something like that. Like, yeah, funny, meme, funny, but it still doesn't make that character super memorable. That's the only thing they have. going for them. And there's a fine line there, you know. You mentioned the shaved head, like so. In my adventure horror Ishizu Landing, there's a type. There are these knights. They're female knights called exemplars, and they shave the side of their head. Now, if you see that alone, well, that's a it's a character. She's got the side of her hair shaved. But in this campaign, it makes it far more memorable because what they do to become a knight, they have to swear an oath to a saint that holds a specific virtue that they're trying to embody. So, like bravery is a virtue, right? So, one of these exemplars may swear an oath to the saint of bravery, shave the side of their head. That piece of hair is buried with that saint's burial ground. And now that exemplar is going to try and live her life trying to embody bravery or cleanliness or whatever, honesty,
Yeah,
whatever it
now
is.
when they see this character, or if they see another exemplar with the shaved head, they'll know automatically, hey, maybe this person is supposed to be also brave, and right away they'll be able to identify
Yep.
that. But on the same token, if the character suddenly stops shaving the sides of their head, now something's up, right?
Something weird. Or maybe they have a flaw where they're secretly not too brave. They're cowards secretly, and then that could add a lot more dimension to that character.
Yeah, and these conflicts of personality are what makes these characters memorable. This is how you add a quirk that would make the character memorable in the player's eyes, and that would make this character mean something.
Yep.
The themes for the characters, like having a thematic role. Game of Thrones, right? The overarching theme of Game of Thrones is loyalty, and you see it
Yeah.
in so many of the characters. So everything from that character that he's obsessed with Khaleesi, with Daenerys, right?
Jorah Mormont.
Yeah, and he's, oh my gosh, it's like to an annoying point. He is so loyal to her, he'll die for her and everything. He's
He's
so
a
such
simp.
a simp.
He's a simp.
Goodness gracious. But yeah, but you also see it with Jaime Targaryen, right? He's with Cersei. He is
Jaime Lannister.
Lannister, I'm sorry, with Cersei, and they're having this affair, and he's loyal to her at first. They even have kids together, but then as things start to happen, as he sees that everything around him goes beyond just this little capsule that he's basically lived in his whole life with Cersei, he starts seeing how the world is changing around him. Then his loyalties start to shift, and he has to make a decision, a moral decision of what he's going to do, whether he's going to stay loyal to Cersei or save the world. You see it with Jon Snow, right? Throughout, he has so many moral conflicts throughout the entire story. So you have this theme that goes, and your NPCs have to fall within this theme. Oh, cut that. If you have an overarching theme on your campaign, which you should, like I did this with one of my campaigns that was a Dark Sun / Ravenloft campaign, and the theme was corruption. And you had corruption happening, oh my gosh, throughout the entire campaign. I was trying to
Yeah, I
tempt
remember.
the players with the myths. We're trying to tempt the players with all these gifts and powers and things to see how evil they would go, to test their goodness and their heroism. And one of the players, man,
He
he gave in
He went all in.
hard,
Yeah.
hard, and he
Eric.
betrayed them from the beginning. These guys didn't even know. I mean, it totally threw a wrench because I was not expecting this. It
Dude, we
threw a
kept
wrench
getting
in
sabotaged throughout the
the whole
campaign,
campaign.
and we thought someone was like hidden following us or whatever. And all along, it was one of our own players. Now, not something that I highly recommend to do in your games. Just to be clear here, Gio knows this. I've
Yeah.
talked to him about this. Like
Yeah.
having players betray other players is almost a faux
I
pas.
wasn't
Like
expecting him to do it. To be honest, it was
so
the temptation was there because the theme was the corruption.
it worked overall because of the theme. So that's what I want to make clear, that this is not something that we're recommending at all. At all. Do
At
not do this
all.
in your games. You're going to piss everybody off and they're never going to want to play with you again. So definitely don't do it
Yeah.
unless you know what you're doing.
But basically, the corruption was everywhere. Children were corrupted. Families would get corrupted, and at the cost of the family members and things. And this was a recurring theme throughout the campaign, that as the players would meet player characters, and you have to tread carefully, like they said, because if the players don't trust anybody in the campaign, so if you're going to make corruption, your theme something like this, it is kind of risky business. You have to know what you're doing. But for the players to not trust anybody because of this, right? Because now you know that all of the NPCs are playing into this theme of corruption. And I'm going to get a lot of crap for this, but because it's Star Wars, and man, a lot of Star Wars viewers, sorry guys, A lot of them are simps, man, for Star
Yeah.
Wars, man. They get a hard on for you say Star Wars can do no wrong.
So hot take. The only good Star
But
Wars is the original 3.
the original
Sorry.
3. And
The
this
original
is where
3,
I'm gonna go in because, man,
maybe Rogue
the
One a little
Rogue
bit.
One was
Yeah.
okay, but man, the prequel trilogy, dear Lord, everybody worships those movies, and I don't understand it.
I don't get it.
None of them make sense to me.
They're
They're
horrendous.
terrible. None of them make any sense. Like, you have this character, you know, with Darth Vader, right? He's a great Jedi. So when you mention, Vase, your exemplars, right, and how they may be going astray if certain things don't fall in line, but they've made
Mhm.
this commitment to their God and all this stuff. You know, this is what they were doing with Star Wars, right? So he becomes a Jedi, Anakin becomes a Jedi, but he so easily betrays his morals over
Yeah.
nothing. And
Yeah.
not just betrays his morals, but does it to a point where it's completely unbelievable. I mean, you
Yeah.
really, really, really have to be a simp for Star Wars to believe that this guy, because has a dream that his
Yeah.
wife is gonna die, he's gonna go murder a bunch of children. Come on, man.
Yeah.
I cannot. That when that scene came on, I was like,
Yeah.
"What
It
the
made no
fuck?
sense.
Where did this all come from? Like, who
And
is
this
gonna
is the
believe
thing.
this shit?"
In the original trilogy, they talk about Darth Vader as a legend, right? We've talked about this in our video and our article on making villains great, right? Like, there's this presence that Darth Vader has where everyone talks about these rumors and, oh, he's so corrupted by the dark side that through time, he's lost all his humanity. Little by little, he's lost all his humanity and he's more machine than man now. Like, but when you watch the prequel trilogies, it all happens at once. Like, he gets burned and loses all his and becomes more machine than man in one shot. When I watched the original trilogy, I'm like, I'm imagining this legend of just over a long period, over decades, like he might have lost an arm here, and then he gets corrupted here, he gets corrupted there. And then
And slowly
when you look
overtakes
back,
him,
it's
and
like,
yeah,
what have I become? But
it
it's
slowly
not.
twists him. That's how it should have been done.
Yeah.
But it was so
That's
rough.
so much more impactful.
Yeah. And then the final scene is so stupid, which is completely irrelevant to this video, but wake up, my little Darth Vader. What? And it's just the Emperor with Darth Vader on the table and it's a couple robots, and it's like,
In a
dude,
tiny little closet.
in this little closet. Like, what the fuck? Was this filmed in a closet? Like, what the fuck is this? But
It's so
that has
bad.
nothing to do with this. But to compare or contrast Darth Vader's fall, right? Anakin's fall to become corrupted and become Darth Vader, that's so poorly done. Sorry, but it is.
Yeah.
Objectively, it is poorly done. You have the Emperor, Palpatine. His corruption was much more believable because he starts off with this thirst for power as just a regular senator who's a nobody. And he very slowly starts to get corrupted. As he gets more power, he gets more thirsty for it. And he does start to show in his face. He gets older as the time goes by, as he gets more power, he gets older, and then eventually, he attacks Mace Windu, and then boom, he becomes all wrinkled and crap, and it starts to show real slow progression through the 3 movies. And that is so much more well done and so much more believable.
Yeah. Better, but still not great.
It's still
In
not
my
great,
opinion.
but so much more believable than Anakin's story arc, which was, God, it was so terrible. So
Yeah.
avoid that, please.
Yeah. So Star Wars video. Anyways, but yeah, so the point is, like, NPCs that are more memorable because they have like an actual arc that they run throughout the campaign. If they're a recurring NPC, I think honestly that if an I don't even know what I'm going to say here. Indistinguishable voices, overpowered. Okay, so and touching on like the Emperor and the Darth Vader. So some villains and some NPCs may be overpowered or underpowered, and if done right, some of these things can make them really memorable. So you mentioned Great Old Ones earlier today. A Great Old Ones is a great example of making an overpowered villain or NPC. You just want to be careful with how you do that. You don't want to make an overpowered NPC like how anime does, where they're just this badass that comes in and just beats the PCs and kills them. All you're going to do is frustrate the player characters. If you're going to make someone that's overly powerful, you want to do it in a way where they're not directly interacting with the player characters. Characters are just seeing the power from afar. Either they're killing someone else that the player characters know, or they're affecting the world in a way where the player characters know that they are outmatched.
Yeah, so absolutes basically are definitely to be avoided. So somebody who's absolutely powerful and unbeatable, yeah, you've taken away the agency from the players when they do face such a villain. But with any NPC, any kind of absolute, if you have a flat character that is all evil, right? Just a villain, just to be a villain. I mean, this can be done well. Like, for example, the Joker in the Batman Return movies, series of movies, he was really well done. And only because the actor did such a great job researching and writing up a story for him and incorporating it into his acting. For somebody to be just pure evil and mustache twirling bad guy, it just does not work. It falls flat. And this is for any NPC. If you have the buffoon, if an NPC is just a moron, it's going to fall completely flat. Your players are, first of all, they're going to forget him immediately. They might remember
Yeah.
him, but for all the negative reasons. As an example of how this was well done was Marco Di Coco in your campaign for Ishizu.
Yeah.
We loved that character. Yeah, he was a little quirky. He spoke with an Italian accent, and you said don't use accents, but they can be used well.
I didn't say don't
if
use
you-
accents. I say you don't have to use accents.
You don't have to, yeah. But if done well to bring personality to the character, he was over the top and hilarious, and we had great conversations with him because he wasn't just a buffoon. He was funny. He wasn't trying to be funny.
Yeah.
He took himself very seriously.
Yeah.
And that made us find him quirky, but all at the same time take him seriously. And we cared so much for this character that later things happened that really ticked us off. And we will never forget this character. We finished these shoes, what, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
And we still remember, we still talk about this character all the time. And it's a great example of how to make a really good, memorable NPC.
Yeah. And with that said, we're talking about Star Wars, like the overpowered, underpowered buffoons, just to bring Star Wars back into the picture, into the conversation. A
Just to take
horrible
off the
way to
Star-
do this underpowered thing. Oh yeah, let's piss them all off. I don't care. So that's going to be quoted and put in the comments.
Oh, yeah,
Clickety
for sure.
clackety clickety. Actually, the prequels are quite deep. If you look into the symbolism of the sand. Anyway, so what was poorly done with Star Wars is the more recent trilogy with what the hell was the guy's name?
Who
The
even
Adam Driver.
knows, bro? Who cares? To be
Adam
honest?
Driver character.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
He was like the Darth
of
Vader
the-
of this trilogy,
of
right?
any of the new
Supposedly.
movies. I know
Yeah.
there was some guy who was supposed to be like the emperor, and then he dies. Or spoiler alert, he
Spoilers.
dies.
So
And then
the
somebody else
guy that
dies
Adam
and they kill
Driver
off-
played.
Yeah.
He was like almost like a Darth Vader character, just to reel us back in. He was a freaking joke, dude. He was such a he comes in the first scene of the movie, he comes in like a badass. They're shooting lasers at him, and he puts his palm up and stops the laser midair, and we're like, oh, now it's on. But after that scene, the rest of the movie, he's just a dopey, like, oh, she doesn't love me. And I suck.
Yeah.
And he gets his ass beat over and over and over and over and over. And it's like, bro, this guy's just a punching bag, dude. He's a joke.
Yeah.
Like, how can
He
anyone
gets
take
beat
him
by a
seriously?
freaking ghost.
And that's why nobody remembers him.
Like,
Right? In this trilogy, what do people remember about this trilogy? Nothing. It was just so all over the place.
yeah, that again, they tried to make this character multidimensional by making him more than just pure evil, but they failed so miserably because he just became a buffoon.
Yeah.
it-
His
it-
predecessor had that a much better arc of in sense of that, because Darth
Yeah.
Vader was purely evil. He was this badass, and at the very end he had that redemption, and he ended up being Luke's father, and he ended up killing Palpatine. Not quote, spoilers. So he kills Palpatine and redeems himself sort of at the end, right? He finally regains his humanity, and that arc is completed, and they made him so much more of a deep character in a 5-minute scene. Right.
Yeah.
And meanwhile,
Yeah,
they try to
that's true.
flesh this other guy out by just constantly having him mope about how he can't get the girl and she doesn't like him and she's stronger than
But
him. And like,
If that was
Jesus
bad,
Christ.
still with Star Wars, right? If that was bad, even worse is, what was his name? Duke Nukem,
Snoop.
right? His boss, Adam Driver's boss. That's supposed to be like
oh,
the emperor.
Skokie.
Yeah, whatever the hell his name was. Dude, talk about make a forgettable villain, right? One scene villain. Who is he? Like, why does it matter? Who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Like, they go in to fight this guy, and like that's the big battle at the end. But why? And who cares? And who is that even? Like, when you bring in a villain, you have to build them up. And one of our prior videos was about creating great villains. You want to make a forgettable villain, make them a one scene villain. You
Yeah.
know, if your characters are going in to fight the big bad evil guy, but they haven't built up a reason to want to kill him, and there's no tie to the NPCs in any way, then you've got a very, very forgettable character and a very forgettable
I
campaign.
know some of you are typing away right now. Gio watched the movies, okay? He knows
I
that
did.
guy was not the main character, the main villain at the end of the third movie. He knows that. He's talking about the second movie when they go and kill him, and then he just dies in a very forgettable fashion. So stop typing, delete what you just typed. Thank you.
But yeah, so we've talked about a lot of the things that would make an NPC memorable that can help. The reason why we want to create memorable NPCs is because you want to create a world, right? As a GM, you're a storyteller. You want to be able to forge an entire immersive world for your players, and you're failing them if you are not making some kind of impact with at least a couple of your NPCs, right? Because this is what players talk about. They're not going to talk about each other's characters and say, "Oh yeah, you remember when your character, whatever, ate the apple?" Like, no, man. They're going to talk about how your fellow teammates interacted with some of the NPCs in the world.
Yeah, it helps develop the character. Otherwise, what these people are all going to talk about in terms of their characters, yeah, I have my character, he casts sleep and does this, and he can
Yeah,
do this, and he
you
has
saw
this
I
combo.
one-shotted this guy.
Yeah, yeah. I have this combo that lets me do this and this and this and that, and that's not a character, dude. That's mechanics. So, um, define the character with a backstory, but that can only go so far. The backstory should also tie into the character's personality, and then that character's personality should change throughout the campaign because the world around them changes them.
Yeah. If it doesn't, then you're looking at, and I'm going to take off a lot of the video game people, but I'm taking everybody off today, right? You don't want to have a video game at your table. A lot of the players in TTRPGs do come from video games. So, like with video games, they want to win. They want to figure out the best build for their character that's going to be a badass and going to one shot everybody. But you want to flesh out their character. You want to help them flesh out their characters because in the end, they may say that's what they want, right? But they want to have that memory. They want to look back a year later and think back, oh man, my character did this, or hey, you know what? You remember when this guy tried to steal from me and I slapped him and I ended up accidentally freaking almost killing him?
Yeah. I've actually had players that are in my regular groups that played a character like almost 10 years ago because they watched a YouTube video and found out a hidden 10 weird tricks on how to shoot 1,000 magic missiles in one round and do 10,000 damage in one round, right? So 10 years ago, we ran this character through something. It was ridiculous and just annoying. But when they talk about that character, they're like, man, remember that character that shot like 1,000 magic missiles? But that's all they remember. They don't remember the character's name, what race they were, what character class they were. Nothing about them, just magic missile, 10,000 magic missiles in one round. That is a video game mentality, right? That character is not memorable. No one remembers that character. All they remember is 1,000 magic missiles in one round. So I mean, some people like that, and by all means, we're not saying you're wrong, but at our tables, we like to flesh out our characters.
And when I say video games,
like
I don't mean
stories.
like story-driven video games like the new Resident Evil that everyone is saying is really great because it's got a great story and blah, blah, blah. We're talking about like you want to max out your character to deal the most damage and kill as many bad guys as quickly as possible. Back from the NES days, right, where you have the Ninja Gaiden, the side scrollers, the Sonic the Hedgehogs. You get the superpower, and now you're a ball of fire rolling through, and you mow down everybody in your way. That is what a lot of these players want to build, or they think that's what they want in their characters. And if you allow that, they may resent you for it, unfortunately, because in the back of their mind, that's not really what they want. Because who goes back and says, man, you know what? When I was in middle school, I played Sonic the Hedgehog this one time, and my Sonic was running around and I turned into a ball of fire. Who says that? Nobody.
No one.
In Ninja Gaiden, I was fighting the level 3 boss, and I swiped him and killed him in 3 shots. Nobody says that.
No.
And it's for a reason, right?
Yeah, it's just mindless fun for the moment, but not memorable.
Exactly.
And what we try to do with role-playing games is make memories with your friends. You're all getting together and playing together and making memories
Tell
together.
stories, yeah, that you can go back and recount those stories, right? And say, oh man, yeah, I killed like 10 bad guys. No, it wasn't. And then the other player will butt in, oh, it wasn't 10, man, it was 11. Oh yeah, you remember that other guy that snuck out from under the ground. And man, you relive these moments. And that is why we play these games. That is really why we play.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, this does it for our discussion on making NPCs memorable.
If you want to learn more, please check out our free newsletter. We have the article is there. We have 10 tips fully outlined with examples for you. that you can implement today at your table to make more memorable NPCs, which means much better stories for your campaigns and your adventures. So you can find that in the description below and in the pinned comment as well.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for hanging out. My name's Vase. I run the Left for the Vultures YouTube channel.
And I'm Gio from the Headless Hammerhead YouTube channel.
All right, guys. We'll talk to y'all real soon.